Cyclists who kill or injure by riding dangerously could be found guilty of a new criminal offence and face harsher prison sentences. Senior Tory MP Sir Iain Duncan Smith has tabled a series of amendments to the Criminal Justice Bill with the intention of seeing those on bikes and scooters charged with sentences similar to that of motorists. Nick Freeman is the motoring journalist and lawyer with me to discuss this. Nick, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Ian.
Nice to have you with us. So, Nick, I mean, at the moment, do the laws differ vastly?
Absolutely. You talked about red lights and cycling on the pavement. That actually is illegal. I mean, there's one huge problem with cyclists, and that is, and it's not all cyclists, but there's no real means of identifying them. So at the moment, as we know from the recent case involving Mr. Fitzgerald, there are no speed limits.
Yep.
No offence of, if they're caught dangerous cycling or cycling without due care, they pay a fine, there's no disqualification, there's no penalty points. So there's and obviously more seriously, and that's what the legislation's concerning, the proposed legislation concerns today, is if you kill someone whilst on a pedal bike and you're cycling dangerously or cycling without due care and attention, or you cause someone serious injury, there is absolutely no legislation to deal with it. That the best we can do is rely on the Offences Against the Persons Act 1861 and charge someone with wanton and furious cycling, which in fact relates to...
That seems extraordinary.
Well, it just shows how archaic.
Yes.
It is. There's 2-year maximum sentence. So if you kill someone, the best you can hope for on a guilty plea is 18 months prison. So what we clearly need, we need cyclists to be encouraged, but we also need them to be responsible, and they have to comply with the law as all other road users do.
Yeah.
They're second in terms of the priority of the most vulnerable, and one accepts that they need special protection, but we also need to protect pedestrians and other road users. So in my mind, and I have been asking the government to consider this for some time, we need specific offences, and those are the sort that have been proposed by Sir Iain Duncan Smith today. Yeah. So if you are cycling dangerously and you kill someone, that is a specific offence with a maximum, it should be a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. If you kill someone while you're cycling without due care, exact parity with road users, with motor cars, maximum sentence of 5 years. And that way, we will encourage people to deal with the way they cycle in a responsible way. You know, if you're cycling at 29, 30 miles an hour, close to the pavement, you know, that there are pedestrians who may well step out in front of you. How could you possibly stop? You can't. So we need to protect pedestrians, and we can't say to cyclists, the law is there in some vague format. It doesn't really have any teeth, and the chances are we're not going to be able to locate you in any case because we've got no means of identifying you. Yeah. So I think what Sir Iain Duncan Smith is suggesting is something that's long overdue. I hope the Speaker puts it in front of Parliament for a debate, because we want to encourage cyclists, but at the same time, we need to encourage responsibility. And I think once you have these laws in place, people who cycle in what I would describe as a kamikaze fashion are actually going to think twice about, actually, goodness me, if I do some damage to someone, I could be looking at jail. I could be looking at being disqualified from driving. So there's a lot that needs to be done, and I think it will be done. And if it isn't done, the government, I'm afraid, is going to have blood on its hands. It's going to be responsible for failing to do something that there's a crying need for.
I think you're spot on, to be honest, Nick. And you know, nobody would disagree with that. I'd like to think we have more cyclists, so naturally this conversation becomes, or these proposals, our ideas become a little bit more pressing. I also think what has happened, the narrative over the last few years has sort of... Look, I don't want to be... I know lots of cyclists who are incredibly responsible. I know, you know, sometimes they film you with that little camera on their head, and that's a bit annoying. But, you know, yes, I see lots of cyclists go through red lights and across zebra crossings. I also see a lot of them stop at those things. So I'm not suggesting it's all, but I do wonder whether a sort of superiority complex has grown over the years, where, because of the conversations we've had around this, that cyclists have felt almost a certain immunity to the general conventions of you know, the gas guzzling, environmental polluting, speeding 4x4 driver, 4x4 vehicle driver, though that defined in that way, versus us, the clean air, two-wheel, keep fit, don't pollute anyone brigade. I wonder, within that, whether we have created this sense of, well, yeah, you're all good guys on the two wheels, so, you know, what harm do you do? But unfortunately, some do harm.
Well, statistics show that more and more pedestrians are being injured. Fortunately, fatalities aren't that common, but they are. They need to be dealt with. We can't say, look, there aren't many, therefore we don't need to legislate for it. That would be rather like saying, well, there aren't many cannibals in the country. We do clearly need to legislate for all eventualities. I think there is a pervading air of entitlement amongst a certain sector of societies. The groups, they call themselves pelotons. Well, that's a racing group. If you had cars racing around Regent's Park, it will be dangerous. Why isn't it dangerous for cyclists close to the curb to be racing around Regent's Park at a speed at about 30% in excess of the speed limit for cars?
And this is where an elderly woman was killed recently, of course, in this very scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, if they'd been cycling more slowly, if they'd had bells, if they'd been paying attention to what's happening on the pavement, anticipating the potential, then this wouldn't have happened. And that's what car drivers are expected to do. Cyclists need to do the same. And I know they don't like to hear it, but it's time that they wake up and accept responsibility along with all other road users.
Yeah, fair point. Listen, Nick, always a pleasure. Thank you. Nick Freeman, the motoring lawyer, with us here on the programme.